When I think about this Ireland rugby team, I think attacking shapes and finely tuned systems. I think layer after layer, wave after wave of connected attackers resulting in some of the best tries you'll see in world rugby. They're a team with a handful of key playmakers who repeatedly attack with the same framework over lots of phases and seem to have the most extensive attacking playbook in the game. But with their unique attacking structure, shape how the Lions will attack against Australia this summer. Let's look into it. Ireland's attacking shape is very, very similar to a lot of teams. They play a 1-3-3-1 system, but they have so many different variations of it. Their whole attacking structure is designed about how many times they can connect with the forwards and the backs. If you look at the way they play two pods of forwards of the middle of the pitch, and they always have somebody connected out the back. If they lose their 10 in the first ruck, their 12 will step up. If they lose their 12, they'll use their winger to step up so that they're always creating 1v1s. You look at the way that Ireland attack, and their whole shape is designed on creating 1v1s. Not that often do we see Ireland create and make absolutely tons and tons of line breaks. But the way that they just constantly challenge the defence by throwing shapes at the defence is incredible to watch. You look at guys, they want to get the ball in the hands of James Lowe, Bundee Aki, Robbie Henshaw, and those guys connected with the forwards who make the most passes out of Tier 1 nations, average of 24 passes a match. It just means that they're challenging defenders, creating one-on-ones, and their speed of ball, because of that, is incredible. The way in which they get the ball to the edges, their runners are connected all the time. So if they play out the back of that first pod, they know they've got 2 or 3 runners coming hard off them. If they play out the back of that second pod, that loose forward who's in the wider channel is coming short and giving a bit of protection for their backs to play to width. What that does, when you play with those dummy runners in the wider channels, it stops line speed. So teams can't just push through and be aggressive all the time. It means that you have to respect the short runners, and it gives time for Bundee Aki, for Robbie Henshaw, for Gary Ringrose to be able to put people in space with their passing game and give the likes of James Lowe, Mac Hansen, even guys like Josh van der Fleer, who finds himself in the 5 metre channels, one-on-one and an opportunity to beat someone. Another really key point when you watch Ireland attack is the question I always ask is who's attacking who? So are Ireland attacking the defence, or are the defence attacking Ireland? And 9 times out of 10, their attack will be attacking the defensive line. Because they take the ball at pace, because they're connected, because they've got threats on the ball, they're able to attack the defensive line and stop line speed. It's a masterclass of how to play attacking rugby, and that's why they're the best team in the world attacking-wise at the minute. Another example of how comfortable they are at holding onto the ball and recycling possession is just how many phases they go through in games. You look at how many times they get above 9, 10, 12 phases. And what that does is because they're so disciplined and so relentless, it's every single phase, every single pod, you've got a guy connected out the back. Every single second phase, third phase, fourth phase, there is somebody connected, selling a different picture, loading up some different options, and they're just so comfortable in how they attack. They go through phase after phase after phase because they're not getting targeted with 2-man shots, because their tip-on passes, their out-the-back passes, their footwork, the show of the ball is so good that teams can't double up or guess. And if you do guess, and if you do shoot out of the line, someone like a Tyg Furlong, a Tyg Byrne, a Josh van der Fleer is just going to pop into that next hole, play out the back to Prendergast or Crowley, and they're just going to hurt you on the outside. What it is, it's incredible how disciplined it is. They fall into shape so quickly. It's clear that they're an incredibly well-coached team, and it is practiced and practiced and practiced. The way that they move the point of contact, the way that they move the tip passes, the out-the-back passes, short sides, whatever it is, probably allows them to push boundaries at the contact area as well. They recycle the ball so cleanly. There's never any real contest on the ball because of how clean their attack is, and they're targeting one man or they're targeting the next hole. So it allows them to push boundaries and put the ball on a plate for Jameson Gibson-Park, who is an absolute master at his trade at the minute in terms of he looks, if the ball slows down a little bit off their first phase, or if they play off 10, he looks to take a short side straight away. If the ball's quick and effective, they look to play the same way to beat the defence on the fold. And I think one thing that probably doesn't get highlighted in a lot of videos or a lot of chat about Ireland's attack is their work off the ball. It is absolutely incredible. If they play to a wide ruck, the amount of times that they get their 12, 13 wingers up on their feet, working the same way, to be connected, to be the extra man, so that when Sam Prendergast, when Jack Crowley calls for the ball out the back, they're in great positions to be able to create an extra player, an extra number, and pick off defences. Johnny Sexton held the keys to this attacking Irish setup for so many years. Those keys have now been passed on to Jamison Gibson-Park, who is an absolute master at his trade. Keeps the ball in front of his forwards, makes sure that they're not wasting energy in that middle part of the third, and just picks the right option all the time. If the ball's slow, like I've said, he'll take a short side. Gets people like James Lowe into the game, Bundy Aki into the game. Ireland averaged 56% per territory in each of their games against Tier 1 nations and have 9.2 entries into the opposition 22 per match, which is where Jamison Gibson-Park just comes alive, controls the tempo, just plays off nine, until the decision is made by James Lowe, by Bundy Aki, to go and crash up or spread the ball wide to score. James Lowe is a fascinating character because for me, he's an all-court player. There's nothing that James Lowe can't do. He's an incredible kicker of the ball. He's got really good hands, can beat people one-on-one, and he's used so often in that second, third receiver just to be able to try something different and shift that focal point. Another thing that they do really well is they sort of, when they get into that 22, they quite often swap someone like a Bundy Aki and a James Lowe or a Mac Hansen around because they want the power like of Bundy Aki, the power of Henshaw when they're looking to score, which is what they've done so well in this year's Six Nations in the corner. The reason why Jamison Gibson-Park has so much time on the ball and can choose the right side to attack and keeps the tempo high is because their rucks are so clean. And you look at why their rucks are so clean. It's easy to say, oh, their clean outs are good or their aggression is good and they're coming in from the side, whatever you want to say. But the way that which their forwards tip on, are comfortable with the ball in their hand. I mean, the amount of passes that they make per game is incredible. I think 122 per match on average, the whole team. And so many of them are from Tadhg Furlong, Tadhg Byrne, Peter O'Mahony, Caelan Doris. So many just little tips which create speed of ball, which give Jamison Gibson-Park the ability to just pick his head up, assess what options are in front of him, and always make the right choice. And that then leads into, you've got a general like Jamison Gibson-Park there who's just so solid, makes very few errors. And you bring someone like a Sam Prendergast, a Jack Crowley into the mix who are relatively new to their international careers, but they look as if they've been there for so long because of how comfortable they are in that system, because of how comfortable everyone is in that system. They're connected all the time. What I mean by they're a really connected 10, which is probably not every 10 is probably like that these days. A lot of 10s like to sort of sit back in the pocket, pick their moments, see when the opportunity is to strike. These guys have to be connected all the time. They're taught it, they train it every single day. And they're both excellent distributors. The passing game on both of them is excellent. They get their runners into the game. They're out the back of that first pod. Then they're out the back of the second pod, moving the ball to width, sweeping back and forth and just creating opportunities and picking out mismatches. So you combine the experience and the ability of their front five forwards to be able to tip, to be able to check that ball out the back so effectively by going at defenses. They're not waiting for defenses to come at them. They're going at defenders, making short passes, making passes out the back, giving time on the ball to Prendergast to pick the right option on the next phase or the next phase or the next phase. And then you've got Jamison Gibson-Park who just controls the tempo, keeps the speed high when it needs to be, takes a short side when the ball is slow. And the reason why you take a short side so often in this Irish team is if they've lost that first contact. So they lose the first contact, come back on a short side, fall back into their 1-3-3-1 shape, and it allows them another chance to get into that sort of quick ball and option to play with speed. Let me know who you guys think should be given the keys to the number 10 jersey for Ireland in the comments below. Is it Jack Crowley? Is it Sam Prendergast? And does that make him a shoe-in for the Lions number 10 shirt? The key factor in all of this is the skill level. They have to make sure their skill levels are so high, whether it's a ball out the back, whether it's a tip pass, whether it's your long balls over the top, which they've scored so many tries off the back of that. The skill level and the passes have to be perfect. But in this shape and in this system, because they're not looking to make line break after line break after line break, they're looking to wear you down, ask the defense to narrow up, ask the defense to make wrong decisions, poor decisions. They then have to make sure that when you're creating one-on-ones, that the passes are excellent and the passes are of a top quality. And in Bundy Aki, in Robbie Henshaw, Gary Ringrose in particular, they've got some of the best passes on the ball in World Rugby. And you see how many times that long ball goes over the top and it's perfectly in the breadbasket to give your James Lowe, your Mac Hansons, your Caelan Doris who find themselves out there the opportunity to beat someone, win the collision, create an offload, and more often than not, score a try in the corner, which they've been excellent at. And I think that's the big thing. It's this, you see the attacking shape, you see the lines of running, you see how they're looking to get defenders turned in or turned out, whichever way they're trying to play it. But what you don't probably see is the amount of work that goes into their training sessions in terms of that passing, in terms of the lines of running and the width of passes, et cetera, et cetera. It's really is a masterclass in attacking rugby. And sometimes everyone thinks they want to see line breaks through the middle, creating, huge gaps in defensive lines. But this Irish team just wear you down with shape. And that then allows those long balls over the top or the missed passes or even the balls inside, whatever it is, because they're throwing so many shapes at you so often, it just feels like you're always defending. And the best way to describe it is that when you play against some other teams and some other attacking sides, you feel like you can have 2, 3, 4 phases where you can just switch off, or even you just need to muscle up and win the collisions. Against this Irish team, it's impossible. Every phase matters. Every phase you're being tested with a short ball, an inside ball, a trick play, whatever it is. And it just makes them so dangerous because it's exhausting defending against shape after shape after shape, consistent. And the big thing about that connection out the back, which is why Bundy Aki, Robbie Henshaw, Gary Ringrose have got time on the ball to throw those long passes and be really accurate, is because they're so connected. If you lose one connection from that pod of forwards off 9 or that pod of forwards off 10, it allows the defensive line to just push through and put pressure. And like any player in World Rugby, if you've got more pressure on you and you've got less time on the ball, your skills aren't going to be as high. So that's why their shape is so important for them to create those opportunities on the edges, but they do all their work with their connection in the middle of the park. One of the key reasons they're so cohesive and so connected and so in tune with each other is because they spend so much time of the year together, whether it be at Leinster. The majority of that Irish team play for Leinster. The majority of that Irish squad have been together for so long. It's an experienced, settled team. So they're able to play and know each other's little pop passes, who's good at check passes, who's good at tip passes, who's good at long passes. So they know their strengths, they know their weaknesses. So they're able to put those people in the right position. Clearly, that's why they're so cohesive, because they spend so much time together. Can this style of play work for the Lions this summer if, for argument's sake, you play a different sort of 10? So you've got a Marcus Smith who's a real attacking threat, wants to challenge the line all the time, look to sort of step people, get on the outside of people. What that means is that Marcus is actually out of the game for quite a lot of the time. And you look at Sam Prendergast, he's so particular about how often, and Johnny Sexton was the same in this setup. He's so particular and picks his moment when to go, because he's there for organising this attacking shape. This shape is complex in the way that they play in terms of their dummy runners. And he's a key part of being on his feet, being able to dictate when it is he can go and when he can sort of hold on a short side, whatever. So guys like Marcus are going to be attacking the line all the time. Guys like Finn Russell are going to be sort of a little bit more laxed on this setup, and he probably doesn't stay as connected to those pods as often as a Sam Prendergast, a Jack Crowley, a Finn Smith, for argument's sake. And I think for me, the system can still work with those guys in, but it's like anything. They're going to spend some time together before they head off to Australia, and they have to make sure that the whole reason why this Irish attacking shape works is because they've got connection. Whether it's 10, 12, 15, 13, whatever it is. So if you play 10 in this setup, you have to be connected at every phase, every ruck, every pod, which is what probably Sam Prendergast is in real pole position. And even someone like Finn Smith, who's way more connected than perhaps the others, that's his natural game. That's their natural game, to be able to sit out the back of pods, allow their forwards to have one-on-ones, ball movement, picking their passes when the time is right. But clearly, those guys are going to be huge in terms of driving this shape. So do you go with a Marcus who's going to be attacking and really looking to challenge the line? Do you go with a Finn Russell type player who's going to be a little bit less connected and picking his moments, but is able to produce some moments of absolute brilliance? Or do you go with your guys like your Sam Prendergast and your Finn Smith, who are probably better suited to this system in terms of being connected and driving those standards and the running lines and calling out the back, et cetera, all the time? That's a big decision for Andy Farrell to make. Let me know in the comments below who you guys think is the leading contender for that Lions number 10 shirt this summer in Australia. Is it a Sam Prendergast? Is it a Finn Russell? Is it a Marcus Smith? Is it a Finn Smith? Or is there anybody else who could force their way into it? Let me know in the comments below. So my tour watch connected by Vodafone, and who I think is already on the plane to Australia this summer. Clearly, there's going to be a huge Irish focus and a huge Irish element to this tour. You saw the same when Wales was successful in 2013, when England was successful in 2017. So there's going to be a huge amount of Irish players on the tour. And you look at the spine of the team in particular at the minute. You look at somebody like, a Dan Sheehan is looking really strong. You look at like a Ty Burn, a Caelan Doris, Jamison Gibson Park. Sam Prendergast is putting himself right in the mix at the minute. One of potentially two of the Irish centres from Aki, Ringrose, Henshaw, and then someone like a James Lowe or Hugo Keenan at the back. And I think that personally, that is where the spine of the team will form. I think it's really important that when you're picking a team, especially a team who are coming together with not much preparation time, learning a new attacking system, learning new shapes, new calls, etc. If you've got the spine of the team who are so used to that attacking structure, then that just feeds for the rest of it. If you play a Scottish tight head or an English tight head or an English second row, a Welsh halfback, whatever it is, it's so much easier if you've got that spine of the team in key positions to drive that. I think, Jamison Gibson Park in particular and James Lowe have probably been the two best players in the Six Nations over the opening couple of weekends, along with probably Sam Prendergast. So I think those guys are in real pole positions to get on that plane to Australia. And it'll be interesting to see who joins them over the next few weeks. Guys who I think are definitely on the plane and have booked themselves a flight to Australia this summer already. You guys like Jamison Gibson Parks, James Lowe, Caelan Doris. And I think there's definitely going to be one or two of the centres from Ireland. I think, Bundy Aki, Ringrose, Henshaw are going to be right in the mix. I don't know exactly what combination yet, because you've got, if Sione Tuipulotu can get himself back fit, Hugh Jones has been excellent. Ollie Lawrence is going to be right in the mix. But you'd think that given the system that the Lions are probably going to adopt, and the coaching ticket is going to be probably quite heavily Irish dominated, you'd think that one or two of those guys in the centre from Ireland are going to be there or thereabouts. And I think someone like Gary Ringrose, Robbie Henshaw, Bundy Aki are right in the mix. But if I had to go with one who I'm definitely choosing out of the centres, out of those three, I think Bundy Aki makes that tour. A massive thanks to Vodafone for sponsoring today's video. And if you want to see more content like this, make sure you're subscribed on the Rugby Pod.
Rugby Pod.